good evening, each and every one of you, and we're so glad that you could be here at tonight's meeting for the Pender County Board of Education on March 21st of 2023. It's an exciting time because we're about to have a swearing-in ceremony of our newest board member. As you know, our previous board member, Mr. Brad George, is now serving out a term on the county commissioners. And so we have received a recommendation from the political party that holds that seat. And at this time, we'll ask the Honorable Sandra Ray. Is she here? Thank you. As she'll come forward, and then Bob, if you'll introduce our new board member. And if you just tell us, yes. Phil, if you'll come on up. And is your family with you tonight, Phil?
Unfortunately, my wife had to be out of town. It was planned well in advance, so they give their regards. They wish they were here, but I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunities to get to know each other.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I state your name.
I, Phil Cordero,
Solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
and laws of the State of North Carolina,
and laws of the State of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as a member of the Pender County Board of Education.
as a member of the Pender County Board of Education.
Congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Phil, if you'd like to come on and
Apologize. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. This time, I see that we do have a quorum, so I have a motion to call the meeting to order.
I make a motion to call the meeting to order.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. At this time, then, let's stand for our pledge and our invocation, please. I'll ask Mr. Paul if he'll lead us in our pledge.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's bow our heads for a moment of silent prayer, please. Amen. You may be seated. Have a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Ms. Burns has made the motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Hall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. At this time, then, if we have any recognitions, Mr. Ball?
We do, Mr. Smith. We have 3 different recognitions tonight. We have one presenter that's doing 2 of those. So Leanne Redebaugh, if you want to come up. Leanne is our Director of Student Services and has some people that she would like to recognize tonight because the week that they were recognized nationally, we were on spring break. So we wanted to bring folks in.
I tried to get him to work.
So I want to recognize our school social workers. They're all not here tonight. Can I just take 1 minute to read a couple of things that the people have said about them? So our school social workers are highly valued. Without them, our schools would suffer greatly. School social workers are superheroes without capes. Our students would not have some of their basic needs met and have the best quality of life and develop to their full potential without them. They work tirelessly to build relationships with our students. School social workers support students and families in a capacity that we might not be able to do otherwise. Our school social worker is of such high quality. She always looks for opportunities to connect with students and build positive relationships. Oftentimes, our school social workers don't get called in under the most positive of circumstances, but our people work tirelessly to turn all those situations into good things for the kids, the families, and our school system. So, without further ado, Abigail Long is here tonight. Come on up, Abigail. Come on down. She serves, and correct me if I get this wrong, Malcolm's Corner, West Pender.
And remain standing.
Kristen Mobley, she serves CFO and Virgo Middle. And early college, yes, women. Okay, Faith Harper, who is not here tonight. Heather Keelan, who is also not here tonight. Jacqueline Reese, who is not here tonight. Miss Julia Beal, who was supposed to be here but texted me a minute ago. Madeline Newton is not here. Miss Riley Ison, who I had the pleasure of spending most of today with. My blood sugar thing. Okay, yeah. Samantha Carter, who serves Cape Fear Middle, Cape Fear Elementary, and Pila. And Riley is Rocky Point and Heidi Trask. Peggy Day is also not here tonight, and Sammy Dorsey is not here tonight, and Elizabeth Hackett is not here tonight. So we will make sure they get their recognitions. Please give these ladies a round of applause. The cameras are everywhere.
Come over here.
So, come up forward.
All right, everyone ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
If she needs something.
Yeah, she needs somebody.
And then Ms. Radabaugh doesn't get to leave yet.
No, yay.
Give another introduction for a woman that does some special work for our school and represented the school district at a recent, is convention the right word?
She
Seminar?
represented us virtually at a conference for the National Association for the Education of Children and Homeless Youth. Got it. Miss Jessica Beal, who is our McKinney-Vento coordinator. And would you take a minute and just tell them what you talked about and educated other people on?
First of all, she said it right. It's a long mouthful and she got it all right. But my webinar was for the 50 states, and it was basically on transitioning McKinney-Vento students into the higher education world. And that's quite a feat, given the situations that they often come out of, as far as the living situation, documentation thereof, to have overcome, the system as a whole, to navigate coursework, to battle a housing situation and all that. So for us that are liaisons, it's quite a battle to, organize all of that and then get them accepted to a program. So basically, it was a national webinar that was a itemized step-by-step program about here's what you do and how you do it.
And Jessica works tirelessly to support our families and students, all of them, higher education or not.
That's right.
You have to do the whole thing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you. One more. All right, so Ms. Radabaugh tags out. Dominique Bates comes in. Mr. Bates is our Director of Career Technical Education and has a special recognition tonight. I'll let you introduce your person.
Absolutely. So if Ms. Deanna Taylor will come up and join me. Miss Deanna Taylor is our Pender County selected and nominated NCAT CTE Teacher of the Year. Ms. Taylor, you are excellent. You know, we have a lot of talented teachers, but you take it up to another level with your excellence. The expectations, the high expectations that you have for your students, you can see it, it's exuberated through their test scores, their performance in DECA, and just the way that you embed your student organization into your everyday content and curriculum is amazing. And so, you know, a lot of people are talented, but your excellence raises the quality level of what you do. And we appreciate what you do. Apparently the state appreciates what you do as well, because she was also awarded the Clifton B. Belcher Professional Award in DECA this year. And so we greatly appreciate you. And so we present this to you.
Good. Tell me if you want them just together.
Okay.
You can always tell them to leave.
Let me look at it, make sure it's good. No, I'm just.
Mr. Smith, that concludes our resolution.
Okay, well, thank you again. Pender County Board of Education welcomes the opportunity to hear from the public during its regular scheduled meetings, such as the one we're at right now. The public comment period is open for members of the public, including parents, students, to voice compliments, concerns, and even complaints about the performance of school personnel, implementation of board policy, the quality of the educational program, or even school facilities. According to Policy 2310, presentations are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. C, vulgar, profound statements, and statements reasonably perceived to be disruptive or threatening to the orderly operation of this meeting shall not be permitted. I apologize for my voice. I cut grass the other day like some of you probably have, and the pollen got to me, so I'm not contagious, it's just that. So this time I think we have a few that's called in for public comment, and so we'll do that first, and then we'll do the ones that have signed in. So do you have that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Hannah Rouse. I've been a resident of Pender County for over 8 years, and I'm the proud mother of 2 Pender County students. I regret that another engagement has kept me from coming in person tonight. Originally, I was calling simply to reiterate my previous statement about outrightly banning the list of books presented by concerned citizens, and I would like to note that my opinion has not changed. While I agree that true pornographic content should never be distributed to children, there seems to be a vast chasm of opinion over whether content that merely portrays inclusivity should be considered too graphic in nature for children who live in a country wherein daily they make contact with people of varying faiths, ethnic backgrounds, outward appearances, and personal desires. I wholeheartedly believe that children should be given the resources to learn and thrive in our diverse society. Is that not the goal of every parent, regardless of our religious and political beliefs, that our children have peace and love in their lives instead of hate and fear? However, that's not the only issue I feel the need to speak on. It's come to my attention that the board has received a letter from the Freedom from Religion Foundation regarding group prayer to open board meetings, a letter which threatens litigation should the board not choose to cease such ceremony, as it intends to engage all community members and students in attendance. I did not see this mentioned in the posted agenda, and as I'm there only in spirit tonight, I'm not sure if it already has been or will be addressed. I personally do not enjoy the thought of any school suffering a budgetary deficit when they are served with a suit over such a supposedly personal spiritual passion. However, I hope that the board and the rest of the staff at Pender County Schools can recognize that while their personal relationships with religion are absolutely protected by both state and federal governments, so too are the freedoms that our non-Christian community members hold dear. In particular, my concern is for the children who may suffer more deeply from both peer pressure and from feeling compelled to follow the actions of their adult role models should they wish to not exercise their own freedoms, as both of my children have experienced in the past 2 weeks, not at board meetings, but during their regular attendance at their respective schools. My youngest admitted to pretending to participate in a group prayer despite her desire and protected freedom otherwise, out of fear for retribution. My eldest chose not to participate in a group prayer at her school, but admitted to the same concerns, which she believed were realized shortly after when she perceived pressure from her peers for having refrained from participation. While I understand that our community is largely Christian, we also have many residents who have faith and spirituality in equal measure for non-Christian religions, and to wit, morality on par with the tenets of the broader religious community without faith in any religious dogma at all. Their freedoms must likewise be protected. While I agree that personal prayer should absolutely be protected, I respectfully request that all requests for group prayer be ceased on Pender County's public school grounds to protect community members who might be unduly reproached for not participating. I offer that a compromise of a moment of silence wherein anyone would be able to offer their individual prayers or merely observe the moment, as this would allow all of our community members to feel respected equally.
Hello, my name is Angela Perry. I am a retired media coordinator from Pender County Schools. I am very disturbed over the trend in banning books that this county has taken, and I have several questions that I would like answered. Number one, I want to know who is on this committee that is reviewing the books. Number two, I want to know who appointed the members to this committee. Number three, I want to know what the credentials and qualifications are for everyone on this committee. And number four, I want to know why they bypassed the system put in place by the Board of Education to appoint a separate committee. I would like these answers within 2 weeks. I would also like to state that the job of a media coordinator is to support the entire student body with their reading. We have a very difficult job in students that are on different grade levels, have different interests, etc. But it is our job to support every child. And if you start removing books, we may not be supporting someone who may need support. Please reconsider what you are doing. It is also your right to tell your child what they can read, but it is not your right to tell my child what they can read. And when you remove books from a library, you are effectively telling another parent what their child can and cannot read. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Connie Nelson, and I live at 706 Highlands Drive in Hampstead. And I'm calling as a concerned citizen about the request to remove books from the Pender County high school libraries. My opinion is that at the high school age, certainly young people need to be allowed to have some independent thought, and the arbitrary removal of books because some people aren't mature enough to handle the topics is not a good reason. And by some people, I mean the adults who are asking for these books to be removed. It's unconstitutional, in my opinion, and I am certain that there is a process for adding books to the library in the first place that these books fell under and were qualified for. So I'm unfortunately unable to attend the meeting tonight, but I really wanted to make my opinion heard. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
My name is Ashley Milam. I wanted to express my disappointment that the board voted to remove over 40 titles from school shelves across the county per the request of a right-wing extremist group with a reputation of bullying and spreading false information. The leader, or whatever you want to call Mike Horn, even admitted to not having read the books. He called the banned books he had never read. Again, he did not read these books, but he requested their removal, citing they were pornography, and the board obliged. Unlike Mike, I have actually read some of these titles, and specifically speaking of the ones I have read, considering them porn could not be farther from the truth. There are many very valuable reads for students on that list. As a parent of 2 elementary-age children, I understand the desire to protect my kids. I also realize the real threat comes from people like Mike Horn and Patricia Kaluch, people that want to take rights away from parents to make decisions about their own children, people that think they know what is best for other people's children, people that want to censor anything they don't agree with, and they want to bully and lie to push their own political agendas. You are not protecting kids by removing these books. If anything, the opposite. Please do your research about the negative effects of book banning and bring these books back. Let parents be the ones to decide what books their kids read. If anything, create a system where kids have to get permission from their parents to check out certain books. But don't take away the opportunity to read these from every child because of these people, or even your own views. Give parents a choice. I want to believe those deciding about these books realize the value that is in them. But unfortunately, it's hard to have faith when the Board of Education already let Mike Horn and his crowd get this far. I don't agree with banning books, but if you're going to entertain the idea, at least let it be done more appropriately. It was a mistake to remove these books for review off a random list provided by an outside political group that they found somewhere, not books they actually read or had any clue of the story. Have parents that have read the books challenge them one by one through the proper channels if they see fit. Stop letting this political group have more say in the school system than actual parents. Thank you.
Good afternoon. That book ban you guys are working on? That is the most narrow-minded, unempathetic, prehistoric, Stone Age, ridiculous, irrelevant idea. Can you come up with something that make any sense, that is of any value, instead of putting us back to 1969? I'm just mind blown. Leah Sterling, have a nice day. Bye.
Hi, my name is Marielle Cruz, and I'm asking that Pender County Schools return the 41 books that were pulled from the school library shelves for review, and not to remove or ban any more books. Children need to learn about normal human behavior. Children should be able to learn about what makes us the same, and that different cultures are not bad. Diversity and inclusion is a good thing. Children need to learn about what makes us different in a sense of cultures and different groups of people. And they also need to learn about tough but accurate history. Please remember that reading fosters education and development, and let's not limit that with our children. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Monica Martin. I am calling and requesting that the board rethink the process of banning books from Pender County schools. My child is a 6th grader at a middle school in Pender County. They need to know that they can read books that represent them and everyone else. And the fact that this has been completed is really heartbreaking. My child is trans, and you are removing books that them and other children can have access to that are causing no harm. If parents don't want their child to read something, then they need to have that discussion with them. Not have it where my child is made to feel that they cannot have access to reading material. that they can relate to.
This is Rochelle Whiteside. I reside at 315 West Bridger Street, Burgon, North Carolina. This is for public comment on March 21st, 2023 board meeting. Education, as defined by Daniel Webster, is an enlightening experience. Enlightening is defined as to give someone greater knowledge and understanding about a subject or situation, to shed light on. This is the purpose of education. Our government provides public education, and by law, our citizens are required to be educated. This is why we attended school and why we send our children to school, to be enlightened, to teach the understanding of a subject, and to shed light on situations to be faced as they move into the adult world. How can our children become enlightened about the world in which they live if the history of and the current struggles of oppressed people are kept in the dark? To educate our citizens, we must shine light on prejudice and oppression. If our children are thrown into the adult world without knowledge of these issues, then we're not preparing them for life. We're not educating them. I'm sure there are books in a library which might offend me and are counter to how I raised my children, but it's not my place to decide what reading is available for others. I'm thankful that I did not live in Nazi Germany when 20,000 books were burned because Hitler deemed them decadent, as he strove to systematically extinguish the entire Jewish population. The monument which stands today in Berlin bearing witness to the tragic repercussions of World War II displays the quote by the German poet Heinrich Heine, who said, quote, "That was only a prelude. Where they burn books, they will also burn people," end quote. I am thankful that I do not live today in communist China, where there is no freedom to read. Throughout history, there have been those brave souls who have sought to educate us, enlighten us, shed light for us to understand that the world is not flat and that we are not in danger of falling off the edge of it, that the earth is not the center of the universe, that it actually revolves around the sun. And throughout history, there have been those who have persecuted the ones who sought to shine the light, to remove from view knowledge they deem unfit. They would prefer that we remain in the dark, uninformed. They threaten our personal freedom by disregarding our Constitution's First Amendment, which gives us the right to read. How can we work for peace and prosperity for ourselves and generations to come if we don't shine light on issues which affect us and our children? We need to prepare our children to move with courage, compassion, and confidence into the world they inherit. And I believe that censorship and book banning will result in keeping us in the dark with fewer resources for shining the light. Thank you.
Hello, this is Samantha Worrell. I'm calling once again to ask you all to put an end to the attempted book banning that is happening in our schools. It's doing a real disservice to the children in our county, and while some may think that it's the opposite, these books are offering representation to many of the kids in our county, and I find it really funny that the Bible wasn't on that list. And that's one of the most violent and sexually explicit books I've ever read. And if I remember correctly, our board approved for an organization to donate a bunch of little mini Bibles to our schools, and then they were put on tables in the hallways for children to get, just to grab. So we were fine with that. And I actually do believe that the Bible should be available in our library. But I do not believe that its teachings or rituals should be happening in our county. And while I'm on that subject, I would appreciate our board to stop praying to a God that many of the people in our county do not pray to or do not even believe exists. Let's just keep it to focusing on what matters the most is our children's education and not trying to push a biblical agenda on them. But back to the book. From the list that I saw, all of these books, with the exception of one, are only available in middle and high schools. These books are for young adults. These kids are young adults. And the one that is in the elementary school concerns a fourth grader who is navigating being trans. I don't see what's wrong with kids reading about that. Trans people exist. And there are trans children in our county. Let's stop banning books. Let's stop pushing a biblical agenda. And let's focus on educating our kids and letting teachers and librarians do what they do best, teach our children. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
This message is related to public comment on March 21st, 2023 board meeting. Dear Pender County Board of Education members and public, I am a retired middle and high school media specialist with a master's degree in library science. I am very concerned about the current controversy over books in our schools. I am concerned that 41 books were pulled based on the demands of one very loud group of people, some of whom don't even have children in Pender County schools. I am concerned that our school media specialists may be feeling under great stress because their professional decisions are being second-guessed by people with no professional training in this area. I worked for 22 years in a Pender County middle school library and 8 years in New Hanover County and Pender County high school libraries. I can assure you I never bought any pornographic or obscene books. However, I did purchase at least 10 of the books on this list during my 30-year career. The rest were published after I retired. These books are not pornographic. They were purchased by trained media specialists using professional journals and other book review aids. They were purchased to meet the needs and interests of their patrons. They are in age-appropriate libraries. The majority, if not all of them, were in middle or high school libraries, not elementary schools. Some of the material in these books may be disturbing, but there are young people who have greatly benefited from reading these books, and there are others who would benefit if allowed to read the books. Life is not easy for many of them, and often the books they read can help them cope with the challenges they are facing. Students of all races, sexual orientation, religions, economic groups need to see themselves represented in the books they read, and that's what these books provide. Reading the entire book rather than cherry-picking certain words or passages as the people who are complaining about them do is essential to understanding the meaning of the book. To block young people's access to such material is wrong on many levels. Parents certainly have the right to monitor what their children read, but they don't have the right to decide what someone else's child can read. I hope all of this will be resolved quickly, that the books will be returned to their libraries, and that this group will not continue to present list after list to the Board of Education. Hundreds of books are under assault throughout the country. Is this what we want here in Pender County? I certainly hope not. Sincerely yours, Sandra Malpas, concerned citizen of Pender County, retired librarian, media specialist, and educator. Thank you.
That was all the call-ins, okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, I believe we have 3 that have signed up for public comment. Owen Sheehan, if I say your name wrong, I apologize ahead of time. Okay. We're glad to have you, and I believe the topic that you've come to discuss is the books as well, so
yes.
As soon as we get our timer up, and your time is started now.
Right. I'd like to, unlike the supporters of this action, I would like to rely on past precedent and the current philosophy of the American Library Association and of leading industry professionals in my argument. I would also like to present the school board a list of signatures from a petition I started in regards to your actions. There will also be a list of sources used in this comment. Firstly, the proponents of the action to remove the books rely on the arguments that these books are in some way obscene, and that they do this by isolating certain parts of passages from books that have sexual content. However, I believe that Shantae Burns-Simpson, the manager of school outreach at the New York Public Library, puts it best why this approach is misleading. Quote, if you take out a single page out of some book that they are challenging, it will alarm you. You cannot pick out one page of a book and say, this book is horrible. You have to take the whole context of the story because, again, the book itself is a teachable tool. These stories that many school librarians, when they pick these titles to engage with our kids, it is again to support the teaching and learning that's happening in the classroom. Secondly, there's a clear legal precedent that the burden to prove that these books are obscene is quite high. Ben David was quoted as saying that what the law says is that the First Amendment carefully carves out if you're an educational facility, including not just a school but also a library, there's a very high standard on whether or not these materials can be considered obscene. There's also the plurality decision of Island Tree School District v. PICO, which states, in our system, students may not be regarded as closed-circuit recipients of only that which the state chooses to communicate. School officials cannot suppress expressions of feeling of which they do not wish to contend. In sum, just as access to ideas makes it possible for citizens generally to exercise their rights of free speech and press in a meaningful manner, such access prepares students for active and effective participation in the pluralistic, often contentious society in which they will soon become adult members. Of course, all First Amendment rights accorded to students must be construed in light of the special characteristics of the school environment, but the special characteristics of the school library make that environment especially appropriate for the recognition of the First Amendment rights of students. A school library, no less than any other public library, is a place dedicated to quiet, to knowledge, and to beauty. And finally, in regard to the whole campaign to restrict access to these books, most of which contain valuable stories from marginalized communities, I think the ALA puts it best with their statement that in recent months, a few organizations have advanced the proposition that the voices of the marginalized have no place on library shelves. To this end, they have launched campaigns demanding the censorship of books and resources that mirror the lives of those who are gay, queer, or transgender, or tell the stories of persons who are black, indigenous, or persons of color, falsely claiming that these works are subversive, immoral, or worse. These groups induce elected and non-elected officials to abandon constitutional principles, ignore the rule of law, and disregard individual rights to promote government censorship of library collections. Thank you.
Thank you so
I have a
much.
copy of the petition if you'd like that.
That's fine if you like to give that. Just hand it to that man right there, Mr. Bob. Thank you again. Okay, our next person signed up is Jacob Boland. You can go ahead and start.
All right, thank you for having me. I'm not going to be very long. All the points I was going to make have already been made. I would just ask for all of you to just listen to the concerns that have been voiced tonight, and just do the right thing. This is just really kind of silly. I mean, for grown adults to be debating of this matter, it's silly. I think most people can realize this. Let's just put it into it. I'd ask you, I plead with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacob. Our third comment has signed up for Gabriel Harrell. Hey.
Thanks for hearing us and taking the time to listen. I guess there's two sort of points as I see it. One is the outcome of the book review that's being conducted, and I personally hope that books aren't removed from shelves. The second seems procedural to me. Are books removed from shelves pending result of review? Are they removed before the review has passed judgment on the books? And that just seems like you're setting a precedent. Anybody who brings an argument against a book, if the book is removed pending review, how long is the list? How long will reviews take? Are you going to review or remove atlases if a Flatlander asks that they be removed? That's the crux of it, and that just seems like a procedural concern. That if a Pender County educational professional, librarian, or a teacher has ordered the book to begin with, that a book should be presumed innocent until proven guilty. And if a panel asks, deems it age inappropriate and deems that it should be removed, then so be it. But until that takes place, I think they should be available. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we're going to our information part of our agenda. Mr. Kevin Taylor is going to speak to us about high school parking fees.
Good evening, members. Chair Smith. I was asked to investigate, look into the charges that we have in terms of parking fees for high schools. So this information is provided for you as information only. Like I said, at the request of the board, I wanted to share with you that every high school charges the same fee of $50 per space. It is prorated to 25 if it's in a half a year. If they turn at 16 and get a driver's license, that's prorated. In comparison, New Hanover County charges between 20 and 25 for the year. It also gives parking tickets of $25 each. If you've, when I was in college, I got a lot of parking tickets, so I can know what that means. Brunswick County Schools charges $40 per pass. Onslow County charges $25, and to paint and to personalize their space, there's an additional $25, and that's only for seniors only. Other districts also have grade span fees, which we currently don't have. Junior fees, senior fees, things like that. Our policies, the relevant policies include 6235 and 6235R, which are also in your board packet. The 6235R is where the specific $50 amount is listed. So just wanted to share that with you, and happy to take any questions that you guys have.
Board members, do you have any questions?
What are we charging so much for? What are we using the money for parking space for?
It depends on the school. It goes back into the general school fund. Some schools use it to fund PBIS programs, which is basically
You tell what
rewards.
for the people listening at home that might not know what that is, could you tell what that is?
Excuse my education.
No, you're fine.
It's basically what it boils down to is when students do what they're supposed to do, they're rewarded for that. Topsail High School, for example, gives away surfboards, gives away other major gifts, and some of this money is used to fund that. They draw out of a hat for students that have exemplified good behavior, exemplified academic prowess, things of that nature, so they reward them for that. The rest of it, I can't speak for every single high school about how they exactly do it, but I know Topsail does that. I can investigate that if you'd like me to.
Well, I'm getting a multitude of different answers. I mean, we went over this before.
Yeah.
Some administrations tell me it's going for painting and striping, and I get a quote for a set amount, and none of that quote's including anything with parking.
Right.
I don't feel like, I've talked to some of the cabinet members, I don't feel like the schools need to be making money on children, right? That's where I am with it.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments about what has been brought before us with the high school parking fees?
I've got one. I just think if somebody could find out what the schools are doing with this money. I mean, I know it's all different, so that we can at least see.
Okay.
Because I've been asked questions about it before too.
Okay.
I always knew that it went back to the general fund, but when you tell someone that, it doesn't really mean anything. Just want to, where does it go? That's what people want to know.
Sure.
So
We can put a spreadsheet together with each school that has parking fee, which is our high schools, and get a rundown of how they use that money throughout the year.
Yeah. All right.
We can get that done pretty quick.
That'd be all right, even in the form of just a paragraph report. It's all right with me, but whatever everybody else wants.
And I would remind you that Pender Early College doesn't, the Cape Fear Community College charges for parking when they're on the main campus. Here, they don't charge for parking at our Burkall campus. So we'll get that to you as soon as possible. Thank you.
Is there any other questions?
I have one. In the policy, it says that parking is a privilege, and I get that. I was just wondering, are there any other privileges the school system charges for students to avail themselves of? Or is this the only privilege that the school system charges students to avail themselves of?
That's a good question.
If you could find the answer, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. But
What is the,
So the follow-up question to that would be,
Well-
what's so different about the parking privilege as opposed to any other privilege a student may enjoy, whether it's going off campus to eat lunch or whatever the case is, that we charge for parking? I understand, obviously, the parking lot costs money to maintain, people that use it, you get where I'm going, but I hope you understand the question as well.
So we don't charge for like pay-to-play athletics, but if there's a prom or a dance or something along those lines, we do charge admissions to sports, things of that nature. So those are all privileges as well. Not everyone is, going to go to prom, I know, but that would be a privilege that we charge for example.
Got it.
But I can try to get together a more extensive list for you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
there's still some more questions. I apologize. Mr. Hall has a question, and I think I saw Ms. Burns pulling the mic up.
Sure.
I think part of the reason too is because I know $50 doesn't sound like a lot, but there are people in the county that it really could create a hardship for that. And again, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but there are some that could, people have some bad situations sometimes, and so that is one thing that I've been asked about as well. I've had people ask, is there a hardship request or things like, I've been asked the same thing over a few other tiny fees before too, but because a lot of people view it as, well, if I drive, you don't have to use the bus to come pick me up. So there's all different ways of looking at it, but that's all I've got. Thanks.
Ms. Burns?
It's just my personal opinion, but I don't have a problem with students paying $50 for a parking fee because, quite honestly, if we are using the money for programs such as PBIS, that's positive behavior reinforcement. I have absolutely no problem with that, and it's a great program. But you've already said you're going to look into what the money's being spent for, so we'd like to see that too. But that's just my own opinion. I don't have a problem with it. Thank you.
Do we know what the cost, because I know that they each have a tag or something they put on their vehicle. So, I mean, if we're talking about eliminating the cost of the $50, I mean, the school can't eat that cost. So do we what's the cost or actual profit that is being made off of this? Do we know that? Or does it vary from school
In
to
terms
school?
of when you take the stickers out of the cost of the stickers, when you take that out, how much is actually?
Yeah, I mean, the company, because I know one kid was very innovative just a couple years ago and actually contacted the company to ask for a sample of the stickers, and he tried to use that as his parking pass, but it didn't match. And the only reason why he got called is because the company called the school wanting to know were they satisfied with the sample that was sent to that student. And yeah, my thing is that I agree with Ms. Burns. The only thing is, I believe this goes back to a year ago where the PBIS and any other program, we've got to build community relationships with our partners in the community. Because if there's individuals that are paying the $50, I can see paying for whatever the cost is, but we should build partnerships with the nonprofits and others and get them involved and have some ownership so that they can be giving. I know several years ago I had an organization give over 100 bicycles to some of the schools, and that wasn't used by parking. It was by people that just wanted to give and to that cause. So if you can come back to us, and if any information you get beforehand that you could send to us, because we don't want to continue to add more heartache and burden if we can help that. So.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Any more questions before I turn around again? Okay, good deal. Thank you. I'll get right on that.
Mr. Kevin Taylor, if think you're up next, but I don't think you're the actual presenter for this, so. Mr. Craig Lawson is going to come and, there's been a lot of misunderstanding, I think, in this next area. And hopefully we can clear some things up by this presentation and not make it even more muddier than what it seems it has been. So we're going to turn the floor over to you to try to get the water clear.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Board. Welcome, Mr. Cordero. Appreciate you being here. I would like to just take a moment to fill in Mr. Cordero and kind of review some of the things that we talked about at the last board meeting, specifically at the Committee of the Whole, where I presented to hopefully kind of maybe make some of those things that people might be confused about clear. During that meeting, we did talk about collection development extensively, talked about policy 3200, which is a policy that we have for the selection of instructional materials. We also talked about policy 3210, which deals with the reconsideration of instructional materials. Please note, Board, that we've only had one challenge this school year for a book. None of the books that we're talking about tonight have been challenged. We are not dealing with challenge books tonight. Those have not been in that process that we have laid out clearly in 3210. The committees that met to talk about the books that we're going to look at tonight are separate from the reconsideration committee that we have at the school level and the CMAC team that we have at the district level for challenges. What we're talking about this afternoon, Board, is the ongoing collection development that we do on behalf of the school systems in accordance with policy 3200. Specifically, it mentions in that policy that we shall review materials routinely for determining if they are obsolete, outdated, or irrelevant, and we will remove materials no longer appropriate. So what you asked us to do at the last meeting was to take a look at these 42 titles in addition to our, and as part of our ongoing review process, which is never ending. As part of the selection of materials, we also want to go back and review those. Someone mentioned an atlas. So there are situations where if we had an outdated atlas in our libraries, we would remove that and we would replace that item with a up-to-date atlas. So weeding is something that happens continuously within our libraries at all times. That is done based upon 4 factors. We look at the content, the physical condition, whether or not those items are in use, and if there are duplicate items that we no longer need. So when you asked us to take a look at these 42 titles, in addition to, again, our ongoing review of all titles within our library, these are the steps that we took over the last month. We did take a look at our internal reading documentation to see if we could tighten that up, make that better. We're always trying to improve. Once we did that, we made sure to sit down with our media coordinators and train them on that process. They went back and then trained and reviewed this material with their MTAC. Someone asked, how is this team selected? According to policy 3200, the MTAC team, or Media Technology Advisory Committee, which is the team responsible for the selection of supplementary materials, is selected by the principal of that building. It consists of the media coordinator, who is really the lead of that team. So in all of this process, the media coordinator is leading the charge and right there to lend their expertise and knowledge in that process. So after the school MTAC teams met and took a look at these materials, they read them in their entirety. So a member of the team read the book in its entirety, completed appropriate documentation, and then the schools, after they met and made that decision on their own, came back and informed us so that we could come to present that information to you this afternoon. So this is kind of an example of some guidance on that documentation, but each MTAC team is allowed to kind of modify this to meet their specific needs. But again, you'll notice some key important things that we look at: the date the material is acquired, how often things are checked out. We take a look at the content. Is information out of date? Is it inaccurate? How is it presented? Is it suitable to our population? We look at the physical condition of items, whether or not we have duplicates, and the use of those items in our schools. So we looked at those 42 titles across 10 schools. We are about 86% complete with that at this time. And I would like to just kind of run through each building and where they're at this moment. Burgaw Middle School had 4 books on that list that they were to review. They reviewed them. They kept 1. They removed 3. They're at 100% completion. Cape Fear Middle School had 4 books to review. They've reviewed 2 at this time, and they've decided to keep both of those 2. The next 2 should be complete the review process for reading by their next MTAC meeting next month. Heidi Trask had 23 books to review. They've reviewed 15 of those. They've decided that those 15 books are a good fit for their library, and they're keeping those. Pender High School had 18 books to review. They reviewed all 18. They decided to keep 17 and remove 1 from the collection. They're 100% done with that. Rocky Point had 1 book on the list that they reviewed, decided to keep that. Surf City Elementary had 2 books to review. They reviewed both of those, and they decided to keep both of those. Surf City Middle had 1 book to review. They reviewed that and decided to keep that. Topsail High School had 23 books to review. They reviewed all 23, and they've decided to keep all 23. Topsail Middle School had 5 books to review. They reviewed 3. They're removing those 3. They have 2 more to review that they should complete by their MTAC meeting next month as well. Then West Pender Middle finally had 2 books to review. They decided to keep 1 and remove 1. That's all I have for you this afternoon, unless you have any questions for me, board members?
Board members, do you have any questions about the process and what we were, what's going on during this period of time?
I have no questions, but I do have a comment. I would like for you to pass along sincere thanks to all of those who I know took a lot of time out of their own schedule to read these books and review them, and for all the committees that met and did make decisions on these. Please pass along our sincere thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. I will.
I appreciate it as well, sir. But let's go back to Pender High. You said 18 was reviewed, 1 was kept. What was the reason for keeping that book?
So we have, again, as I mentioned, we have documentation going along with each of those books that they discussed. We just got those, the deadline for getting those turned into us was today. We haven't had a chance at the district level to review those, but we'll be happy to provide that information to you as soon as we've got a chance to review the specifics. I do know that some books were removed based upon, like, 1 book in particular I know that it hadn't been checked out in 7 years, and so that's why I decided to remove it. So I know that, that book in particular, but I haven't had a chance to read through the rest yet, sir.
So 1 was taken out because of age?
Yeah, for use.
Okay.
Well, not necessarily age, but use. You know, one of the things, and again, and you'll notice kind of in the presentation, you know, not checked out in 5 to 7 years if it's nonfiction, not checked out in 5 years is fiction. Those are kind of general guidelines. It can really depend. You know, we have a limited space in our media centers, and so we want to make sure that we are putting high interest titles on the shelves, that our collection is getting good use, and we're selecting the best titles of the most interest to our student body.
Okay. Let's skip over to Burgaw Middle School. It says 4 reviewed, 3 were removed. Is that same thing with age, or is that something different?
I would have to look at those particular ones, and again, the documentation provided by the school MTAC team for that. And again, we'll be happy to provide that for you once we've had a chance to review it. You do have a list of those titles in with your documentation, the specific titles.
Do you have any further information on West Pender Middle School and the 1 book they removed?
No, sir, I do not at this time.
I don't have anything further.
Okay. And of course, does anyone else have any comments? Anyone else? Well, of course, exactly what we are working towards is not to plan on going and buying gasoline and burning books and starting some kind of movement in that way, because we know that there's a lot of great material there. And one thing I think you're proving is that we're not cherry picking any type of material, because you can cherry pick any particular book. I mean, the newspaper or anything, you could look at and find 1 word that might offend you, I'm sure. So I've been using as an example is just like the wonderful world Pluto, you know, or planet Pluto. You know, there's a reason why that's not on there as a book that would be taken off. So this is not that we're on some kind of wild witch hunt and all the things. This is not a book banning, book burning process. This is a review that needed to be done, and with COVID and other things that have kind of slowed that process down, we haven't kept it up to speed, and that's all this is. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Again, this is an ongoing process. Weeding collection development is never ending. It will be continued on long after all of us here are gone.
Yeah.
And the point of that is just to make sure that we maintain the best collection we possibly can for our students. Yes, sir.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Mr. McPherson, could you go back through, and I think one of the callers did ask a question as to who was reviewing it, what comprises the MTAC committee. Could you go through that, please?
If you'll give me 1 second to pull up the policy.
Yes,
Absolutely.
sir. I'm sorry.
And as you're pulling that up, is it all right if I go ahead and speak to that, sir?
Go ahead and do it if you have the answer.
Yeah, quickly. So in policy 3200, the MTAC committee is selected by the principal, and it is made up, again, primarily of the media coordinator. Our policy does mention technology facilitator, which we do not currently have at our schools. And then also staff, parents, and when possible, students. Again, most of our schools, a lot of times they might use their SIT committee, which also is the team responsible, according to that policy, for selecting primary instructional resources as well. Sometimes they use other members. And again, it kind of differs by school. One of the things I think maybe the caller might have been confused about is I think they might have been referring to a different committee, which was the committee we use for reconsideration when there are challenges. Again, that's part of policy 3210. Please note that those teams are separate. So the MTAC, which is a team that's looking at weeding and also the selection materials, is not the school team that is used if a parent challenges an item. If they were to challenge or ask us to reconsider an item, they would fill out the online form, which is available on our websites, and the principal would create a team that is comprised of staff, parents as well. The media coordinator does serve on both. Policy 3210 does specifically mention the CMAC, if anyone would like to look at that. That is something you guys put in place in July, and that deals with if a challenge at a school is not accepted by the parent, or they would like to object to that challenge, they can approach our superintendent, and at that time we would create or take the CMAC team which you created, and we would put that into reviewing the school policy. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Indeed it does, and I wanted to ask that question just to ensure clarity as to how the committees are formed, who is on the committee, and I think that we've got a pretty good representation of school and parents and community
Yes, ma'am.
on
And
these teams.
Yes, ma'am. And our district team met not too long ago, and again, that includes 3 principals, 3 media coordinators, again, from across the district, 3 staff members from across the district, 3 parents across grade levels and across different regions of our district as well. We also have the superintendent and myself and our head of technology that is a part of that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for answering that. I appreciate it.
Did I miss anything, Mr. McPherson?
And it would be very hard challenged if you think about it. Were to complain is why are we taking these books off the shelf while we're doing this review? But I mean, if you're going to review it and not cherry pick it, you have to remove to look at the book. You have to take it because some of these only have one. There's only one copy, and so it's not that we're trying to keep something from someone. It's just that we're reviewing and doing the due diligence of this.
Yeah, one of the things that was important for us when we were reviewing the books is to make sure that we had at least one member of the committee that read the book in its entirety.
Yeah.
When possible, we had more. Again, we were at a time constraint, so did the best we possibly could. But in both, that's not always possible when you select materials. All the time you're going a lot on scholarly reviews, things that are recommended by the publishers. But once we do get that book in our collection, we feel obligated, as time allows, when we're reviewing things and looking at things, to read those in their entirety.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or anything?
I just wanted to thank you for working so expeditiously and getting this more completed than you've already done. I mean, I wasn't expecting such a quick report in 30 days, but understand it's recognized.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. And I do have to say and kind of echo what Ms. Burns said. We have an outstanding team in our schools. They work tirelessly, and it's not just a thing for just this meeting. Again, it's an ongoing thing. It's very important for us that we work hard to have the best materials and resources for our students. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if there's no more questions, then go to the consent agenda at this time. Board members, you've had opportunity to look over the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Do we have a second on the consent agenda?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Okay, any discussion?
I've got just a comment. It's, consent agenda is way too large, so, as usual.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, the consent agenda is not approved, then. Did you?
I have to abstain. I received it this morning, and I have not had the opportunity to look at it, so I don't feel comfortable voting on it. I apologize.
All right, and abstain is a what vote?
Well, it's not in favor of the motion, so it's not.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Because I voted that way here before, and I was told it means no.
Yeah, it doesn't. That's
You
what I'm saying.
you mean you were
It
told
doesn't vote in
yes?
favor of the motion.
Okay.
Sorry. You
All right.
can't count it in the yes column, you have to count it in the no column.
I would be willing to revisit the consent agenda in pieces.
Well, let's do this, guys, okay? Consent agenda, 10.1, budget report. Can I have a motion to approve the budget report? Ms. Burns, were you making that motion? I heard.
I'll make the motion
Have a motion by Ms. Burns to approve the budget report, 10.1. Can I have a second on the motion?
I'll second the budget report.
Have a second on the budget. Any discussion? Not hearing any, then? All in favor of the budget report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to the budget report?
No.
No.
Okay. Let's do this now. Budget, 10 point.
I don't know that we can do this because the agenda's not set up this way to be broken into pieces.
Can I have a motion then to make all the consent agenda items to be put on action items? Ms. Burns, were you making that motion? Or Phil, did you make that motion?
Yes,
Okay, so we have a motion by Phil. Ms. Burns, did you second the motion?
I will second that motion.
Have a second on the motion. Any discussion on moving all the consent items, and I'm not gonna read them off because you have them in front of you. Then you would like to make that, any discussion on that? Not hearing any discussion, then all in favor of moving all consent items to the action items, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Okay. So let's go then to action items then. Okay.
That's what you just did. So, Mr. Chair, as I understand it now, items.
What you, yeah,
You now have 11.5 as the budget report, 11.6 as budget amendments, 11.7 as the fuel and energy cost.
No, I want just, I think that to make it simpler, if and I'm all about, let's try to keep it.
Sure.
The 10.1, now that they've voted to make consent has just been changed to action. So instead of moving it to action, it's just become, a line item has been changed from one to the other. Is that okay?
Don't we have to make a motion to amend the agenda, vote on that?
I thought that's what you
I
just.
thought that's what we just did. Maybe I'm wrong.
All right.
No, that was the motion I made.
Yeah, that's what you made,
I
okay.
thought it was to amend the agenda to move items 10, the consent agenda, and add it to action. So that's the reason I'm doing the renumbering, is because we have an active action agenda. And thus, it has to be added to the end of that action agenda as it currently exists.
So it has to be added to the end?
That's right.
That's fine with me, yeah.
Okay.
It's like a good sandwich regardless if you put the bread on top or bottom, as long as you got the bread there.
So,
Well, that's okay then. Well, let's go to action then. Summer Learning Plan, Kevin Taylor. And I'll ask if you'll get Dr. Lisa Lee to please come up as well. Dr. Lee, would you come up as well, please?
So what was our final disposition on consent?
They're moving all it moved all to the end of action items. So now every item's going to have to be listed.
Mr. Hall, the consent agenda beginning at budget report is 11.5 to 11.13, foreign exchange student applications.
So before we get started, my reason for stopping it was, I just think the consent agenda is way too large, and so I like it as an action item, but it's just a way of cramming a lot of different unrelated topics down our throats sometimes. So that's my, I don't have a problem with one particular item or anything like that, but just to be clear.
Okay, Dr. Lee and Mr. Taylor, come on up and tell us some good things about Pender County Schools.
all right, you have before you, and we're doing a summer learning plan, right?
That's correct.
We have before you the summer learning timeline that we've submitted for principals. In that, you can see where things are tracking towards developing the plan that we're going to use for summer learning. That is pretty extensive. It's been modified several times. We used the template from last year to create it. We've been meeting regularly to be able to get this put together. Both NISD, which has done the majority of the work. We've also had some meetings within cabinet as well to define what our needs are and to move forward with the plan, including transportation, all those things. The second document that you have is the actual plan. This plan needs to be signed by the board chair once it's approved. And then we submit this plan to, and also by Dr. Breedlove. And this plan is submitted to the state for approval. And it highlights the dates that we're doing it, the scheduled instructional time, and re-administration of tests. Dr. Breedlove, you may want to jump in.
Sure. We will have 3 separate summer plans, and we have to submit to the state. One is Read to Achieve, all right? That is working with our K-3 students who are not proficient and need additional support in reading. Second is Summer Learning. That is our work to support students across the board, all grade levels, in their deficiencies, whether that's reading, math, science, social studies, and support those students. That's the same thing that we've done over the last 2 years with COVID. It's going to be purchased through ESSER funds, and the last item is CTE related, and that is our summer accelerator camps, which are CTE based. So we are replicating very similar to what we did last year as a school system in order to support students who are in need due to COVID shutdown 2 years ago.
And the plans you have in front of you is the first part of that. The other 2 plans will be presented later. And the final document in that lists the plan for compensation for our teachers. That will be teachers, administrators, teacher assistants, bus drivers, what we propose to compensate them with. And you can read through that.
Is that on page, I'm in the 128 range?
Third document.
Third document, okay. Thank you.
That's it. RTA requires a signing bonus.
Okay.
Read to Achieve, yeah.
Free to achieve.
But we are continuing, we are trying to, everyone will receive that bonus similar to what we did last year.
Wonderful. Okay.
And you can see all through that, we've listed teacher assistants, bus drivers, substitute, 10-month administrators. And again, this is all for the June summer learning.
Any questions, then, before we,
Mr. Chair, I got a question.
Sure.
How are we going about letting the bus drivers that don't have access to the building during the mornings and evenings, accessibility to the building to use the restroom?
Upon request from the principal, we can add those individuals with their key card access.
Okay.
We just need to be advised. Mr. Macon, anytime I have any requests, it's immediately addressed. But again, we want the principals to know who is in their building and authorize that entrance and egress and ingress.
And it's also my understanding from earlier in the board meeting that we're making double trips. Is that double trips to the same school, or is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. For example, some of the larger communities throughout the school district have so many students, they actually fill up the entire bus.
Okay.
So basically, we go through one neighborhood, go back to the school, drop those kids off, and then make them do a longer run out and about.
I understand. Thanks, sir.
Okay, wonderful. Is there any other questions? Can I have a motion to accept the summer learning program that was presented?
Make a motion to accept the summer plan.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the summer learning plan. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not hearing any discussion, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, loan maintenance contract. Mike Taylor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. We recently accepted the bids from 4 vendors who have agreed to provide lawn maintenance for our school system. All bids were received on time and opened accordingly. The file submitted includes the RFP, the bid sheet, as well as all submittals from the 4 vendors. As you can see, the lowest bidder was Katie Fair Lawn Masters, the total being $128,900, which would come from local operational funds, and the recommendation is for approval by the Board of Education.
Okay. Board members, there were several people that had applied for this contract. Do you have any questions before we take a motion?
Do you have a list of contracts, Mike? I mean, a list from the different things that they were going to do. I'm sure not all 4 contracts all read the same, or had the same verbiage as far as what they were going to do, right?
Yes, sir, they have to.
Yeah, they have to.
If they don't comply with the RFP guidelines and include that in their contract, they're non-violent vendors.
What I'm saying is any of those companies in there saying they would rake the grass up? Did any of those companies say they would freshen the pine needles up if it needed it?
They agree to what we put in the RFP, sir. And I'm certain that I did not say in the RFP to freshen up the pine straw. No, sir.
Have you looked at the contract, Mr. McPherson?
Yeah, I helped prepare the RFP, but the contract itself doesn't happen until after you guys pick who the winner is. So the RFP is the same we've used for several years, and it's been vetted by me multiple times. So the RFP is to cut the grass and maintain the lawns of the various schools. The landscaping is sort of a separate issue as far as I'm concerned. It's sort of always been treated separate.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't have anything else.
So I got, so it means the scope of the work is the same regardless of the.
Right. That is correct, yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve the loan maintenance contract?
Make a motion to approve the loan contract.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Taylor, you're still up here, I believe, declaration of surplus items.
Yes, sir. Last year, the Board of Education approved the large purchases of upgraded equipment for our cafeteria. During the transition, obviously, you have these large pieces of very expensive equipment, lots of stainless steel, et cetera. So there's still a significant value to these pieces of equipment, although they're no longer in use by the school system. Therefore, I would like to request that the list of items provided, which also includes some of the unusable equipment at the operations center, mowers that have engines blown, we cannibalize parts from, et cetera, et cetera. Those things are simply becoming an eyesore and taking up space in our facility. I would like to request, by declaring these items surplus, we can then list them on Gov Deals, which will generate the revenue that can be returned to the district. The recommendation is to receive approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Is this gonna help pay for these dishwashers? I know you said it's going back into circulation, but spring break's over with and them dishwashers ain't fixed. My first board meeting, that's what we said we was gonna do.
Yes, sir. I just received from Ms. Head approval from NCDPI, who actually has to approve all capital investments in the cafeteria. For the 2 quotes that I shared with you that I had received, we're going to proceed. We've waited 2 weeks and still haven't received a 3rd quote. That will be on the board agenda for April.
Okay.
Well,
Thanks,
if you
sir.
got a motion on the floor to approve this surplus items,
I'll second.
have a second. Now, do we have any discussion? None hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The RFP for financial audit, Miss Lisa.
Good afternoon, board members. In your packet was included the vendors that were included in the RFP that we received proposals for. Everybody have that attached. So we have the score sheet for the audit services, and then we have our recommendation. And I know this will probably be a first, that you will have a finance officer actually ask for approval for something that's more expensive. I believe there's value in the RFP that Anderson, Smith, and White presented. You will see in your comparison, they offer 336 hours for audit services to complete our audit. Currently, our Thompson, Price, and Scott was 218. And I can tell you that our staff is filling in the gap. So the difference in the price is coming not from the audit services, but our staff taking the time to provide documentation repeatedly and doing excessive research for them. You will also see that Thompson, Price, and Scott had 7 school districts. Anderson, Smith, White has 76. So it's our recommendation that we choose Anderson, Smith, and White.
Okay. Is there any questions about this before we have a motion to approve what has been presented?
Who's the current firm?
Thompson, Price, and Scott.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve what has been presented to us for the RFP for financial audit?
I make the motion.
Have a motion by Ms. Burns. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. Okay, any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, at this time, thank you. Now, I will tell you, if you go to the office, and I know many of you do, but those ladies and gentlemen, all of the team that works back there doing financing constantly are so busy. So thank you, and please send that message to all those that are working in our finance department, that the board is very appreciative they're kind of like the people you don't see, but they're very busy. So thank you once again for your hard work.
No, thank you, and I'm very, very grateful to have such a dedicated staff, and so is Pender County Schools.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much again. Okay, at this time, then we'll go to our next item is budget.
I've got a question before we go.
Okay.
I don't know that we can vote on it one at the time because that's not how the agenda was presented. I would be willing grudgingly to vote as the whole thing together as it was originally done, if anybody wants to do that.
We voted to amend the agenda, I know that.
It's already been voted to amend.
It's already been voted to amend.
But I'll be abstaining from every
Okay.
item on there.
Well, here, as a procedural issue, what?
I just know that this was put out to the public in order.
Sure.
As it was presented.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure. If you can address action items as you see fit as a board. If you choose to do them as a collective, you certainly can. You can do them individually as you see fit. But there has been a motion to amend and make it individual items, and the agenda has been amended as such, so.
Okay, well, we're just gonna go ahead and move on, okay?
Yes, sir.
10.1, budget report. Can I have a motion to accept the budget report?
I make a motion to accept the budget report.
Have a motion to accept the budget report. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 10.2, or excuse me for the wrong numbers. Budget amendment. Is there a motion to accept the budget amendments?
I make a motion that we accept the budget amendments.
Have a motion to accept the budget amendment. Is there a second? Okay, there was a motion. Is there a second? Not hearing a second, then that motion dies. 10, or the next one, fuel and electrical costs. Is there a motion to accept fuel and electrical costs?
Make a motion to accept the fuel and electric costs.
Okay, there's a motion to accept fuel and electrical costs. Is there a second? Is there a second to this motion?
I'll second it.
Have a second? Okay, well then, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? Motion carries. The attorney fees, is there a motion to accept the attorney fees?
I make a motion to accept the attorney fees.
Have a motion to accept attorney fees. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion to that? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This time our board minutes. Is there a motion to accept board minutes?
I make a motion to accept the board minutes.
Have a motion to accept board minutes. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The March preschool program reports. Is there a motion to accept the March preschool program reports?
Make a motion to March preschool program reports.
Have a motion to accept the March preschool program reports. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Donation to Surf City Middle School.
Make a
I
motion.
think you've seen the check for that, correct? Okay. Have a motion to accept that donation.
Motion to accept donation.
Okay, have a motion to accept. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, the Clear Touch purchase for various schools. Motion to accept.
I got a question, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Is this coming out of ESSER funds?
How will this be paid?
This is coming out of capital outlay funds.
So it's coming out of ESSER funds, yes?
No, this is capital outlay funds, which is provided by the county.
What schools are going to?
It's going to the 9 elementary schools.
Okay.
The 24 units that are going to the 9 elementary schools. I've heard a lot am I allowed to go ahead and just make some comments, or would you like to have a motion first?
If it's comments, if you don't mind, let's do the motions.
No problem. I make a motion that we approve the Clear Touch purchase for various schools.
I'll second.
Okay, and now if there's any discussion,
I've heard from several people who, not only teachers, but also substitutes who have used these Clear Touch panels, and everything that I have heard has just been exceptional. It's a remarkable teaching tool. It's making life a lot easier in classrooms, and that's why I wanted to make the motion.
Yeah, I've seen them in work. I've been to the schools and watched them work. I think they're great, but I understand the efficiency as well as me talking to other board members about this. How many more of these are we gonna provide to the schools is what I'm after. How many more teachers need these for efficiency of the job?
Mr. Taylor, would you like to come up and maybe, since this was under your category?
Due to federal funding, several of our schools have been able to purchase those using Title I federal funds. Additionally, our career and technical education program has purchased numerous devices to be spread out across middle schools and high schools, again, using federal funds.
Right.
This is an opportunity for us to utilize some capital outlay so that we can open these opportunities up for all classrooms. Every child in Pender County deserves a modern instructional environment, and this is our tool, the next generation tool to provide that for them. So I can't give you the exact number of classrooms that still would need one if we were to purchase these, but these purchases are for elementary only. The number purchased per school is based on the ADM in that building. So we try to do it as equally and equitably as possible.
And let me just further explain. As we're strategically trying to up our technology in all of our schools, we have to be very careful not to use federal funds in one area and not in all of the areas, or either local funds and not federal, because there's a supplanting law. So as we're being able to add them in the Title I schools, that's because we could only afford to do them with the federal funds in the Title I schools. Same thing with ESSER funding. And same thing with CTE funding. So we have to be strategic. None of those elementary schools had those funding sources. So that's why we were able to use some capital outlay funding to address just the elementary need. The goal is to make sure that all of our schools have the technology they need.
Right, because last month we actually approved several of these Clear Touch for the CTE program, if I recall.
That's correct.
And additionally, because we received a significant technology grant at the beginning of the school year, and we're able to buy
Chromebooks.
how many? 2,800. I was gonna say 3,000.
$11,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3,000, but it's 2,800 Chromebooks, so therefore, this money could be used in another area.
Mr. Taylor, do we have a ballpark number for teachers that need these?
Ballpark, about 550 classrooms do not have this technology.
Across the county.
Across the county.
And how many is on the block here?
24? It was 24, I think.
There are 24 on this.
Yes.
Spread out amongst 9 schools.
Elementary schools.
We have a little over 800 classrooms throughout the district.
Now, these units are mobile, correct? They can take them from classroom to
Yes,
classroom,
ma'am.
right?
Wheels.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
And again, that allows us to strategically place these in classroom environments where they can be wheeled next door without being a laborious event for the teacher
Very
to
good.
transition.
How much federal funding do we got to spend on these? That's all.
Again, we're looking at the federal funding and what we can use based on not supplanting. So we're strategically using what we have. We can use ESSER funding when we can deem that we're not supplanting and not for being able to provide it with another local funding source or another funding source outside of that. So, I mean, you have so many pots of money, it would be hard for me to say you have, $1 million to spend federally. Because, there are Title I schools, there's migrant, there's CTE, there's tons of federal pots. You just have to be really careful in how you use that money so that we do not get in trouble for supplanting.
Okay. Would you like us to buy more?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna, the whole concept of coming back asking for 5 here and 10 there and 15 here, and I know you're talking about the supplant law, and I understand what you're saying. I'm not a fan of it, but I'd rather know. It's like Dr. Brelow and I talked. I'm all about streamlining efficiency, right? If we need them, it's gonna make somebody's job efficient. I'm all for it. Instead of just kind of like looking like we're hen pecking. You know what I mean?
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, we have to kind of find out how much money we have left in each
Right.
pot as we get closer to the end of the budget year, correct?
Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, was there a motion by any chance? There was a motion.
There was a motion, there was a second.
And there was a second, okay. I apologize. So is there any more comments or questions? Okay, not hearing any then, a motion and second, all in favor of the purchase of the Clear Touch for these various, elementary schools, say, yes?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. This time is our 10 point, or our, excuse me, our next is our foreign exchange student application. Is there, any questions about this from Mr. Taylor, Kevin Taylor? Do you have anything that you want to add? No, okay.
Student has gone through the process through the EF program. Application is there for you to read through. It's pretty standard. Based on our policies, you guys have to approve a student from a foreign exchange student to attend our school system.
What school again is the student? Pender High School. Okay. I couldn't find what school it was, so but it is Pender High. Okay. All right. Is there any other questions for Mr. Kevin Taylor or Dr. Bree Love? Okay.
I make a motion to approve the foreign exchange student application.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? I'm sorry, my voice is cutting in and out. We have a motion on the floor for the foreign exchange student application. And do I have a second to the motion?
I'll make a second based on staff's analysis that policy requires us to pass or to approve the application as it conforms to all of the requirements. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But you can vote anything up or down, though, also. Is that correct?
Yes.
They can vote it down. It's not a mandatory, is I think what he's saying. Is that right, Mr. Field?
Yes,
It's not,
yes.
it's not mandatory. He
I'll make a
makes.
second anyway. Thank
Okay,
you.
no, I just want to make sure.
It's a
Okay.
pleasure.
Okay, I have a motion, have a second. Any discussion? Okay, not hearing any discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, at this time, comments from board members, I think, is next. Line item, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I know we've moved some things around tonight. Mr. Hall, would you like to start with
Yeah,
them?
I would.
Okay, go ahead.
I find the discussion very interesting about every single item just about on the consent agenda. So I hope everybody sees my point that I made earlier. As I've said before, that's a whole lot of stuff to be pushed together, and most items just deserve their own questions and comment time and so on and so forth instead of just a rubber stamp from this board. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Hall, for your comments. Mr. Field.
I'm honored for the opportunity to be here. Sorry about that. I'm honored for the opportunity to be here. I look forward to serving, and I apologize for my need to abstain, but I just don't feel it's right for me to vote on something that I haven't had the opportunity to read, so I'm understand staff has certain, hoops they need to jump through, and I didn't have access to all the systems, and they couldn't get me the information. This is a one-time thing, obviously, and so I just beg for your forgiveness and understanding when it comes to that. So thank you very much, and I look forward to working with everybody.
Well, we look forward to the same, and thank you for being willing to step up to serve in that seat.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Burns?
Oh, I think I'll keep it short and sweet. Mr. Cordero, welcome to the Board of Education. We're happy to have you here, and we are looking forward to serving with you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Springer?
Yes, sir. Mr. Taylor, I got a few questions about
Excuse me.
about the dealings with Topsail Middle School. It seems that the CO2 levels there are still in the higher than normal ranges. Is that your understanding?
We're making corrections to it, sir, today. The process is down to 1065. Again, this is a very complicated situation, but those CO2 levels are not unsafe, sir.
What are we doing as far as the solution goes? I mean, this is like kind of like the clear screen just every month.
Yes, sir. Well, in this specific situation,
Yes, come on up.
in this specific situation,
Mhm.
we basically have removed all air obstructions, increased the flow of outside air into the facility, and increased the exchange rate.
Okay. Now, as far as it's also my understanding students have been suffering from, I mean, I don't know how true this is. I haven't ever asked a student, but I'm just asking for speculation purposes that these students have been suffering from headaches. Now, I don't know if they got a headache problem medically or what the deal is. I don't know if it's from elevated CO2 levels or what the problem is. But in case CO2 levels are above the 1,000 mark range, do we have a plan to get them out of there in case all heck breaks loose?
Again, it's a very complicated situation. The
Right.
ASHRAE standard you're mentioning versus, or in regards to the email that was sent, that is a static measurement. That is a recommendation, and actually, you're supposed to conduct time averages, time-weighted averages, which can be, and at any given time, it could be 525 in that building, or when that child walks outside, it's 400 or 500 outside. So the time-weighted averages are not in unsafe ranges.
Okay. So during the nighttime, what are we doing with the heat controls? Are we leaving them at the heat, or are we leaving them to where the heat is static, or are we cutting it down to more than 15 degrees?
Nighttime setbacks, I think, are 55 or 60 degrees in the Topsail building. So it will come on when the temperatures drop, like last night, I think it was 31 on the coast, 26 inland. So yeah, those machines were coming on.
Now, I want to let the other board members know that you and I did talk, and you did tell me or advise me that operation costs would go up if we didn't drop it no more than 15 degrees. Is that what you told me?
Operation costs
Would go up if we,
you do not drop to the 55 or 60 set points, which are
Correct.
in our policy.
yep. That being said, the problem with the mold and all this other nonsense that's going on or is not getting mitigated, it's critical that we all understand that Operation Electric will go up with the continual processes that they have in maintenance with the temperatures.
Yes, if we reduce the set point differentiation, operation costs do go up. If we don't let our buildings get to 55 or 60, and if we always keep them under 85, yes, operational costs have to go up, just like
Right.
in your home.
Yep. But I'm not a fan of dropping it down to 55 degrees. I just don't.
Yes, sir.
I've gotten pictures, you've gotten pictures, we've all probably gotten pictures of molded ceiling tile, and that don't just grow overnight. And I know there's heating and air problems over there. I know there's roof problems over there. What,
Well, as shared with the county commissioners this past week, there's a
Okay.
significant amount of deferred maintenance throughout this district. We had pictures that show that. We need to do a better job of strategically planning the way we spend our capital outlay. That will be part of the conversation when our committee meetings start next week.
okay. How much are we proposing that we got budgeted, or can you say? For to repair all this mold mitigation and remediation?
For this year, sir?
Yep, or to the presentation that'll go toward the county commissioners.
That information has not been discussed in full
Okay.
at this time. I think, Dr. Breeden,
We're working to build that, and we will have a meeting with our county commissioners in May.
Okay,
That will be set on that.
okay. I don't have anything further. Thanks, sir.
Dr. Sawyer, we look forward to many years of your service here in Pender County Schools. We're excited with the team that you have, and I know you have to be a very special person to be working with that team. And so we are looking forward to hearing you come up in meetings to come and plans of action. So as board chair, and I speak on behalf of all the board members, I believe, that we do welcome you from the cold state of Pennsylvania. Is that correct? So welcome back to the South. She's from South Carolina, and so we were glad to get her back in the South. So let me just say that we did have a meeting with the county commissioners. It was to get together to discuss our budgeting needs, and there's a lot of needs, and so we were able to have a very productive meeting with them. And so I'm thankful for everyone that had the opportunity to go to that meeting, and it was just the beginning step of what we're going to be doing, working together, because we're such a big part of their budget. I also wanted just to thank the staff at Topsail Middle School for giving me time to come in and look and tour and visit with the art program and seeing some of the great things. They're getting to paint on the walls in the hallway, and I would have never dreamed that we would have been allowed to do that in school, but it's part of some of their art projects, and those kids really are very talented, and so we were excited. My team is seeing all the good work that's going on over there at Topsail Middle School. I want to say in closing, a personal note. Last month, the woman who raised me, my grandmother passed away, and many of the staff have reached out and sent an email and come to the visitation, and I want to say thank you for that. Miss Tobin was her name, Smithy Tobin, and what was so special about my grandma is that with her raising me, I can remember my first day of going to school. I was so excited that little yellow bus to come pick me up on West Craven Street in Wallace and take me to Wallace Elementary School. And so when the bus got there, I was scared to get on it. So Grandma took me and drove me to school and told me, now this is not going to become a habit because I'm not going to sit in this car line to get you to school. So she made that clear. But I can remember my first report card, bringing it to her. She really instilled in me the importance of education. And with that, I believe it's the reason why I'm sitting here today serving as a member of the Pender County Schools. She believed education was the key that could unlock any door. I encourage every parent that's out there that's in our school system. One of the things we're dealing with so much is that children now, teenagers, spend about 7 hours a day on these devices. There's policies in our school, and I don't know if all our teachers and principals would be willing to just continue to make sure that the kids understand that this is not something that needs to be on and playing and used in the classroom. It's an educational environment. There's a lot of good stuff on this, but there's a lot of bad stuff, I'm sure, as well. So my point is this, is let's make education important, and let's make sure that those little kids, when they get on that bus or get in the car, that they know they're going to a safe place, and they'll be excited when they come home to show their report card and knowing that education was important in the home. That's where it starts. It starts right there in the home, regardless of who you are. So thank you so much for our staff and everything you're doing. It's a pleasure to serve with you. Dr. Breelove, I think you're next. No, our attorney.
I'll be very quick, Mr. Chair. first thing I want to say is a big thank you to the Honorable Sandra Ray for appearing today and swearing in our newest member of the board. I appreciate her service and her willingness to come out and do that for this board tonight. In addition, welcome to you, Mr. Phil. We are happy to have you. And last, but certainly not least, Dr. Sawyer, thank you, welcome. We're happy to have you. But with that, I will mention a couple of things. The governor released his budget recently. That will promptly go in the trash can with the General Assembly. I wish I was kidding. No, but in all seriousness, there's an understanding that that will be a negotiating point, but frankly, with the majorities in the houses, it's not really that much of a conversation piece. A couple of other bills I want to bring to the board's attention. There has been a charter school omnibus bill. It's House Bill 219. If you're not aware, please take an opportunity to read that. If you'd like additional information or would like me to send that out, happy to. Additionally, House Bill 188, Standards of Student Conduct. I also think that may be a good one to read and look at as well. So without anything else, that concludes my comments, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McPherson.
Yes, sir.
At this time, Dr. Breedlove, if you have any comments.
Want to reiterate what everyone has said. I want to welcome Mr. Cordero, sworn in this evening to the Pender County School Board, District 5. I am very confident that the positive, encouraging support from Mr. Cordero will continue to bring commendatory results to Pender County Schools as part of our team here. And I just want to say thank you again to Mr. Cordero for supporting Pender County and Pender County Schools and taking on the responsibility of our school board. Also want to recognize Dr. Brandy Sawyer once again coming to us from Pennsylvania. We have been going a long time without a chief academic officer, and I will say that both Ms. Owens and Dr. Lee have done a phenomenal job of stepping in without a CAO, but it is nice to have the chief academic officer here with us at this point to help guide us and support also Pender County Schools. As a reminder to all parents of upcoming kindergartners for next year, the registration process is underway. It has been going on since March the 1st, and it will last till end of March 31st. Of course, we will always open our doors to students that need to register for kindergarten beyond that, but that is our registration period. It's kind of our big push. The information is out on our Pender County Schools website. If you need additional help, please feel free to call your local school, stop into the local school, or come to the Central Services or call Central Services. We will be very happy to assist you in registering your child for kindergarten. The number is 910-259-2187. I am continuing my visits with listening and learning. I am down to 3 schools at this point. Tomorrow I'll spend the day at West Pender Middle School, and I still have Pender Early College and then CF Pope to finish off all 19 schools. I really look forward to presenting to the Board of Education my findings. I think it's going to be an outstanding opportunity for me and for Pender County Schools and what lies ahead in a 1 and a 3 and a 5-year plan for our school system as I present to the board. Also want to recognize Miss Deanna Taylor. You saw her this evening, CTE, the Pender CTE teacher, Topsail High School, as the NCAT Teacher of the Year, Pender County Schools NCAT Teacher of the Year. Also, Pender County Schools will be closed for the Easter holiday, which we recognize on Friday, the April 7th for that, and then that weekend. There is an optional teacher workday on that Monday, April the 10th, so our students and their families get a long weekend that weekend. I think that's a great announcement for them coming up. And then we begin the first Board of Education committee meetings next Wednesday and Thursday, and I'm looking forward to that because I do think that it will be a better process to discuss a lot of the things that we saw tonight and in greater detail because we're a growing system. And I appreciate the board allowing us to go in this direction because it allows for much more discussion in that process. And then the next Board of Education meeting is scheduled for April the 11th at 6 p.m. We'll be back on our normal second Tuesday of the month schedule at that point. And board members, at this time, this concludes my update. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Breedlove. Okay, at this time then, can I have a motion to go in closed session 15.1?
All right, the Pender County Board of Education will enter closed session subject to advice from the attorney. Pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A1 and A6, to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel information under GS 115C-319, and to consider matters relating to initial employment of an individual employee. The board will also go into closed session pursuant to GS 143-318.11A3 to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege to consider confidential student matters as provided in NCGS 143-318.11A1 and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, 20 United States Code 1232G, and NCGS 115C-402.
We have a motion on the floor for closed session. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor of going in closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Not hearing any. At this time, we're in closed session. At this time, can I have a motion to come out of closed session?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, can I have a second? Second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, our human resource report, motion to approve that.
I will make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Can we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? This time, the staff transfer request report documents, motion to accept that.
Motion.
Have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second, by, Ms. Burns. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this time the human, we're gonna do I think there's a motion that I heard someone was about to say.
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider item 11.6, budget amendment.
Okay, we got, item 11.6, reconsideration, budget amendment. So we got a motion on the floor. Can I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Springer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other,
Mr. Chair, we now have to vote on item 11.6.
okay, can I have a motion on item 11.6?
I make a motion to approve item 11.6, budget amendment.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Don, a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Closed session minutes.
Have a motion to accept the closed session minutes and for them to remain closed.
I make a motion to approve closed session minutes and for them to remain confidential.
Okay. Have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. The next is, okay, our next meeting is, I believe we said was going to be April the 11th. Is that correct? Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Oh, excuse me, second.
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor?